Alright guys, we've got two side mount cylinders here, steel ones, that we've already prepped, taken the bands off it, and we're going to turn these back into a twin set. If you've seen our previous video, we took the twin set apart and turned it into side mount, and now we're going to go the other way. I've already loosened the nuts here that are stopping the cylinder from leaking out the side. Obviously they're both empty, that's absolutely crucial before you do any work. Got an isolation manifold here, we've got a 21 spanner to secure the nuts on the isolation manifold, and to take these off we got a number 13 and a number 13 ratchet for the twinning bands. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to continue taking these out, and you'll find that they both turn in opposite ways, which is obviously why or how we fit the isolation manifold. So we're going to take these out first, and then we're going to start with the manifold. Alright, so we've taken both of these out. We're going to save these in case we want to turn it back into a side mount set. Here comes the tricky bit. We're going to put this manifold back in place. Obviously make sure it's clean and that it's got some lubrication on it, oxygen grease. And what we got to do is we're going to start on one side and get it in one turn before we line it up with the other side. It's a very fine thread, so you've got to be careful that you don't cross thread it, you don't get it on an angle, and that you're not putting excess strain on the thread by the cylinder sitting on an angle. Okay, so I'm going to start off on this side here. It doesn't really matter which side you start on. We just got to figure out which way this goes. So this was counterclockwise. Alright, so I've got a little bit of start there. I'm going to align the other cylinder and adjust the gap here so it's all straight. And then you're going to very carefully find the starting point. Okay, please take your time to find that thread, and if that takes you 1, 2, 3 minutes, then that's not an issue. You just got to make sure that you got it in, and you got it in straight. Once you've found the thread, you can start turning and bringing the valves closer together, and as you do, bring the bottoms of the cylinders closer together as well, so you're not putting any excess strain on the threads of the manifold. Now you're going to keep going until you have about a finger in between. That's a good point to pause. Skinny finger. So I'm going to pause there for a minute. And what you should have is you should have a fairly equal gap on both sides. If you've got a lot more on one side, you pre-turned it too much to start with, and that means your manifold's going to be off-centered, and it also means that one side has less thread to grip on. If it's excessive, please start again until you can get it better. If it's a little bit different, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so from this point on, we are now going to put the bands back on, obviously with the studs sticking out to the front of the twin set. And if you can get some help with this, if you can get an assistant to help push this on, it will make life a little bit easier. I'm going to create a little bit of space, line the band up to the bottom of the cylinder, and gently push from the other side, create a little bit of lift. And the second one. Right, so once I've got them on like this, I've got two choices. I can either put it all together laying down, or I can put it together standing up. I'm going to do mine standing up because I prefer it that way. So I'm going to support both cylinders here, bring them up. Alright, so we're going to start off with the top bands, and we want the top line of the band just at the point where the cylinder stops curving, so where the flat bit meets the curved bit, and that's a nice point to start with. It doesn't have to be too tight, just make sure it's straight. We're going to look at the second part, and we want that to be 11 inches apart, because that's the gap that you're going to find in your back plate. If you find that the gap on top and bottom is vastly different, you need to be adjusting the position of the manifold. A little bit more. It's going to be too much. Great. Once we've got these positions, what we'll do is we'll gently tighten them. They don't have to be crazy tight at this point, because you might want to adjust the manifold as well. When you're turning the manifold, you'll find that one position comes easier and the other one comes tighter. Yeah? So you'll find resistance. If you get more and more resistance, it means that you're pushing the cylinders in a way where they don't want to go. You're going to kind of find that position where it's easy, and then have a little bit of an angle on it so it's easy to turn as well. Let's move that out of the way. A common mistake now is people tightening it up from this point, and the cylinders might be like that, which you can easily resolve by laying it down on a flat surface. I appreciate this bench isn't completely flat, but if you lay it down on a flat surface, you push on both ends. If there is any deviation, you can stretch it out like that, or you can straighten it out like that rather. That's nice and flat, that's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish tightening off the bands. Make them nice and tight, not to the point where they start creaking, but certainly a bit of tension is fine. Right. Well, I've got one thing left to do, and that's the securing nuts on the actual isolator, so it doesn't turn whilst you're using it. You don't want that. So find a position that you like, turn both nuts clockwise, get your 21, hold the manifold in place, and secure it. The nuts in place. All right, now you can fill her up again and go diving.